Hello everyone, welcome back to Jade Journeys. My name is Natalie, and if this is the first time you're watching this channel or listening to this, which will be in podcast format as well, welcome here. This is my little sanctuary in the ether where I have personal sharings and also beautiful guests coming on and sharing their stories and teachings and experiences related to art, spirituality, and holistic health. And today I have a very special guest, and it feels really amazing because I've known Faye and since more than 4 years back, and you've been an instrumental person in my life and in my spiritual journey as well. I discovered you through a girl called Sarah who has an astrology account on Instagram called She Sees the Stars, and it was very random. It was like, I think she just made one little story about you, like, I just had a reading with Faye or something, and I just felt so drawn to you. And yeah, this was quite a few years ago, so it wasn't like you had a lot of courses and stuff that you do now. So it's been really beautiful to follow your journey to where you are today. You do spiritual education, you do online courses for intuitive, sensitive people that want to deepen and awaken maybe their gifts and get to know themselves on a deeper level and how to navigate those blessings that you have, even though sometimes it can feel like a curse as well. So it's so beautiful to have you here today and hear more, because you're so knowledgeable within this space, and I really look to you for guidance myself and for how to orientate yourself in life. So thank you so much for being here, Faye, and thank you for all the beautiful work you do.
Oh, what an introduction. You're supposed to make me cry before we... But thank you, darling. It's absolutely beautiful to be here and to share this conversation and, just to kind of arrive in a space where, isn't it beautiful that where we get to talk about this stuff out aloud, and there's more and more curiosity and just such a lot of beauty. So, yeah. Thank you for having me, my dear. It's a pleasure to be
can't
here.
You share? Yeah, it's a pleasure for having you. I was curious to hear like how your journey into this realms and to where you are today, very embodied, living a very happy and meaningful life. Where it kind of started, or what's been like pivotal moments, and how you came to be doing what you're doing today and following your own heart in the process.
Yeah, it all sounds so beautiful when you put it in that way, and I feel there's such a deep humanness in me too that feels like I really live quite simply. I'm here in Tasmania on a little heart-shaped island at the bottom of Australia with my partner and my dog, and it's where I work from home, and a destination that took a long time to arrive at, where I would say there's much more centeredness and peace in my life that allows for me to be of service. But when I go way back, I mean, our journeys are sort of timeless and eternal when we look to the soul, which is a lot of what's been integrated into my practice, and it is the calling. I look right back to childhood when, we all have that innocence about us where we haven't yet been conditioned or even programmed or given the language to shut down our intuitive nature, our empathy, our sensitivity. And so it wasn't until I was probably 7 or 8 years old that I started to realize that I was separating from that experience because I'd made myself different to the people in which I was around. Small things, but like being able to feel that there was an untruth coming through, but not really having the intellect to understand why somebody would say an untruth. Kind of feeling it in my system to the next chapter of life, where you're sort of being fed that information, and not just around truth, but little tiddly bits, even if it's telepathy, images, pictures that kind of come through, or that deep knowing that we have inside of us. You start to sort of relate more to the third dimensional reality. You start to look for logic or for proof, or something that exists in the 3D. And so I guess slowly, there's like a rigidness and a contraction around that beautiful wisdom and our intuition, which I truly believe we all have. And it's a skill set, it's a skill set that we can all learn. And I guess slowly within that, and because I really do see intuition as a natural part of our being, it's a part of who we are, it's not separate from us, there was a slow losing myself.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I don't know that we don't switch that intuition off, I guess. And so it
Yeah.
talks and it will do whatever it can to get your attention. And so if we're in the body and we're in the being, which became too uncomfortable for me because I was just in such denial of all of the discomfort that was showing up, and some of that density, some of that psychic debris in my awareness that I have now, some of that just the shutting down of the heart, so is that you start to be limited in your awareness, you know, and it's the life becomes all about it's also personal. I guess everything's
Yeah.
taken so personally, it affects the confidence which we need in order to back our intuition, which for me, through periods of my life when I've listened to that, I've taken these beautiful steps forward. So there was a long kind of chapter there of self-sabotage and dancing around with all sorts of different things that would take me out of my body, that would numb the language that was communicating with me, because I didn't have the resources to do anything about it. It started to become intellectualized, so it was placed in the mental and emotional disturbance, but there was always this part of me that knew internally that wasn't the answer to the thing that I was looking for. I was asking the question very young, who am I? Why am I here? What am I here to do? You know, I loved people. I was
Yeah.
so curious. My mum used to bring her friends over and I'd sit down and interview them. But I would ask them very
Oh.
strange questions, you know. And I was curious about people, where they come from, why they made the decisions they made. What is it that, you know, what turns you on in life? Why are we here? So it escalated, I guess. It escalated to a point where, I mean, I was driven to insanity, really. And I look at it now, it was, you know, you can label it as psychosis, and it was a manic episode. I was put in the psych ward, and that was my probably the biggest initiation I had, even though there was endurance involved prior to that experience. And I had that knowing when I was centered in my being and in my calmness, I wasn't crazy. It was all adding up. There was a lot of, you know, premonition and different experiences that were happening. And it was at that point my clairvoyance and my clairaudience opened up. So to be able to see and to be able to hear is a very different experience to having a gut feeling or
Yeah.
even a knowing, because it's kind of like it's there, but it's not. The evidence almost starts to come into and back your intuitive insights when there's sound and visual.
Yeah. So for those listening, that's kind of like intuitive channels, you can say, how you get the messages and hits and how you feel it forward.
Yeah, and like what people call clairs, you know, like we have clairvoyance, claircognizance, actually clairaudience, like we perceive this through the throat, and our clairsentience via the heart. We have these beautiful energy centers that communicate with the non-physical. Physical too, which is the important part of this, right? It's not that the mind is wrong or the emotions are wrong or the physical body is an uncomfortable place to be. It's that it's super intelligent, and when that system can land together, there's kind of this beautiful unity. That's why I love the physical side of things. I'm a Taurus rising, so bring on like beautiful food and wonderful smells. I'm an extremely sensual woman, and you know, I would love the delight of the earthly pleasures. But the truth for me has always been in the non-physical, and that's sort of what I feel like I was wired to perceive and gravitate toward that. And so it was always this kind of like mission of like, I'm in like the thick of it, you know, I'm in the underworld, really, you could put it that way.
Yeah.
And I had a long journey with psychic attack and sort of like malevolent beings and different sort of energies, which sounds just like, you know, it was kind of like a horror movie and a horror show, but I see it as, you know, they were some of my best teachers and some of those most beautiful experiences, because it taught me along the way how to navigate these terrains which exist inside of our being. So that kind of went through to like my early 20s, and I kind of, you know, escalated. I got out of the hospital in my own knowing that I wasn't mad. I kind of had to like play the game to get out of there in some sense. And
Yeah.
my mum knew because I kind of was just offering them proof. I was just like, well, these things will happen. This is what this is. I kind of gave them evidence-based reading, which is important in some situations. And she helped me get out and get established. And I started leaning into I guess, the spiritual part of me, because every time I did listen to that, I would feel expansion, I'd feel softness, I'd feel centeredness, I'd feel movement. I feel like I was connecting to a part of myself that was wanting to come home. And all the other stuff, like, it was real and it was a part of the experience, but it wasn't enough. And it was just like,
Yeah.
I'm not settling for this. It just never felt real to me. So yeah,
It's
I
too
kind of
shallow.
followed. Totally. And I followed that, that beautiful voice, that intuition, and slowly, it was a real endurance piece for me, because I was very early on, really, in my life when that happened. It was still 16 years ago now. So yeah, it was a lot of healing, isn't there? There's a lot of cleansing out when we
Yeah.
move into these parts of our being. It's not something outside of us, our psychic perception. It's something internal. So the spiritual path for me, and like the education and the communication of spirit and these beautiful beings, is about having clarity internally, which means being able to
Yeah.
train the mind, as where the yogic philosophy and everything, which so beautifully comes through.
Wow. So before you kind of, I mean, I don't want to say a rock bottom, but maybe in a, from other perspective, like when you're in a psychic ward or you get medicalized or whatever, did you have a connection to your spiritual side, or was that more just a voice in the back of your head that was like, you kind of are quite connected, or like your intuition is very strong, or was that a discovery that happened afterwards when you realized, I need to heal in a more natural way, or I need to find new ways of being?
That's such a lovely question, Margaret. Thank you. It was there, and it was louder than everything else, which I guess at that point I was in resistance to it, because there was a conflict with the reality or the physical world in which I was in. And I was never settling for that. I was like, this is not working. Like, you're trying to make me happy and better and whole. And it's like, the answers aren't in my mind. The answers aren't in my emotions. The answers aren't in my physical body. It's manifesting now because it wants my attention. So yeah, the voices were coming through. The feelings were there, the experiences and synchronicities, lots of premonitions at that period of my life. And when I look back at it now, it was like evidence from my spirit guides, right? They would just sort of say, this is what's going to be on the front page of the paper tomorrow. This is, and it was just, but it was too much, too fast, too soon, as my beautiful friend Peru would say. And I was totally overwhelmed. My system was fried, which is what's kind of brought the aliveness for me, and teaching people to explore and develop their psychic abilities, is that there's a great responsibility that happens or that's needed in that space, because you're expanding into more, and often in a time where you already can feel overwhelmed by the sensitivity that's in communication. And these senses take you into the higher dimensions where there is, more information. So we have to be able to manage what's going on down here first in our physical, mental, and emotional body. So there's a clear up that has to take place.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that from my own like journey with yoga and getting into the body, I think when I first came into this path, I thought it was a lot about upwards, but then over time I realized how much, and you mentioned the intelligence of the body and how much is in the body, and we're here in the physical world, so it's so important to get into the body on a daily basis to kind of like get that clarity and integration, and I guess take care of the nervous system and feel more whole and balanced and in union with all parts of yourself.
Absolutely, and it's the present moment, isn't it? And the present moment where the intuition speaks. And so it's that arrival, because one of the biggest things, if I'm about to start a session with someone, or I'm feeling dysregulated myself or out of center, it's like, well, where am I? Where am I? Where is my attention? Where is my awareness? What am I energizing? Am I energizing thoughts? Am I avoiding feelings? Am I exploring some other part of the universe that has information for me? That's all fine, but I want to do it consciously. I want to do it in the light. which is where those beautiful
Mm.
practices and things come in. And there's a discipline that needs to take place if we want this expansion to be something that is sustainable. And I guess for
Yeah.
me, it was these huge, like big expansions and then big contractions. I'd fall flat, flat on my face, and then I would go to things to numb my body and my being. That's why sensory beings is so common to get caught up in
Yeah.
addictions and substances that numb our and numb that kind of
Yeah.
turn the intensity of it down. But the intensity of it is usually like it starts to soften. My intuition is
Mm.
softer than it used to be because I'm listening. It doesn't need to scream at me, and it
Mm.
will to get our attention. And
Yeah.
I guess that progression is something my intuition or my gifts change as time goes on, and the beings. So there were lots of lessons and learnings even then because I would listen to some voices, but I didn't have clarity as to the source of where that information was coming from. So you can sense a
Mm.
beautiful, like angelic presence per se. As I used to feel angels in the sight ward, like wrapping their wings around me and things, right? And I was talking to a girl a lot of the time, and I was in there who I later realized when I was in meditation was me, which sounds like a really strange
Oh.
concept. But when I would sit in
Yeah.
meditation 5 or 6 years later and I'd find myself, exploring or healing myself and sending myself light, I would all of a sudden arrive there and I'd be saying, it's okay, you're going to be all right, just keep going, listen to your heart, take a deep breath.
Mm.
And then there would be like this merging of the experience where it's like
Mm.
my future self is in communication with the past self, kind of helping her along. But language evolves as we do, doesn't it? And we get offered these different
Yeah.
perspectives. And I guess the perspective is something that's always changing.
Yeah. I think you're so knowledgeable so within meditation. Maybe we can get into that later about like the
Mm.
third eye and the inside of us, because that's
Mm.
one thing that I really taken away from you, how to your mind's eye and how to come into that inner space that's always
Mm.
there for you to access this clarity and the data and what's there. But I just wanted to briefly go into that because I think it's like an important one and one thing that I myself have seen both in my surrounding but also with myself, this about numbing sensitivity with addictions or some kind of control mechanism or I think my heart breaks a bit when you see like young artists or people that you sense are very intuitive and sensitive, and they drink their life away, or there's
Mm.
drugs or there's whatever. What would you say, how did you get off that path and like choose more of a sober way of life that supports your sensitivity? Like, what are your thoughts around that transition, and how can we go from that as kind of a coping mechanism to finding, because it's intense to have to let go of maybe something like
Yeah.
that to take like accountability for how you're wired, but
Yeah.
it's also in some ways life or death to make that
Mm.
switch.
And it really was for me, honey, personally. Like when I go back to those periods, that's what I used to feel that I came close to death so many times. And I just knew it wasn't, I couldn't perceive the light beyond that experience. And I wasn't prepared to lose myself. Uh, I had no other way. Like there wasn't another path for me. Sometimes I
Yeah.
see that there's multiple timelines, and sometimes in that, where there's lots of opportunity or in a place of exploration and, curiosity, I guess the path can feel super wide, and that's not a bad
Mm.
thing. Uh, but this kind of narrowing was happening for me in a way where the consequences to the action, say, like if I was, would, I'd be sober for 6 months and I would go out and kind of have that big splurge or whatever it was because I'd had a really, intense few weeks. It was more of an indicator for me. I could sense that the voice or the urge for that was coming from a different place in my being, and I could see clearly from the ripple effects and the consequences of that were so dire for me that it would take me, weeks, if not months, to pick my vibration up. And when we're
Yeah.
working at this and the discipline that's involved, and there were so many different facets because I was managing an eating disorder and things as well, so it was kind of like happening on multiple different levels. It was sort of it I guess the desire for it or the attachment for it was it was an illusion. And I guess I could
Yeah.
see that it was an illusion because I never escaped it anyway. I was just leaving my body. And so when I would arrive and I'd start to settle back in, and I had all this extra repair to do in that experience, and it was more challenging to hear the voice of my heart because I'd abandoned her once again. It was kind of like I'm not prepared to like keep digging these kind of graves over and over.
Yeah.
So I started to fill them in, and instead it's just a different perspective or another lens where, okay, that craving or that like feeling, there's usually an indicator that comes, even if it's just that, maybe it's a pressure in your neck or something. You start to feel that there's like a sign there that's like, hey, we're going into that territory where the pull to escape this experience is becoming more and more intense. And for me, that was a
Yeah.
lot of like entity possession and stuff was involved with a lot of that. So there was a lot of fear to transcend too. But I guess with that experience, I could see that it wasn't true. And so when you hear that voice, it's like, oh, okay, I can recognize that that's not coming from my heart. So do I want to give my power to my ego, or some,
Yeah. A
it starts
lower
to shift the
self.
direction. It starts,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like it's a misdirection. So I guess intention starts to become really important, doesn't it? So for people that are struggling with that experience, there needs to be some kind of internal commitment usually. And what is it
Yeah.
all about? Because it's all well and good for me to say, who's like super passionate, this is a part of my soul, like listen to your intuition and drop that stuff. It's not for everybody. But if you have a calling and there's a knowing, it's usually inside of yourself. It's not outside of yourself. And so when you pour that energy in, and there is like an element of letting go of our attachments to stuff that keeps us fixed, but it's on all levels. And that's the responsibility part, which is why I've tried to shorten like my House of Mystics course. It was 6 months initially because I was like, well, these are all the things we have to go through to get to a space where I feel like there's the veil, we can lift it safely
Yeah.
now. Because
Yeah.
there's things we got to learn about the physical. Like if we can't even, we can have an awareness and information and education around how much water we need to drink a day, and we can still struggle with that aspect. So if we're still
Yeah.
struggling to stay hydrated, do we really want to go into a space where we take full ownership of our creator abilities, knowing that what we think we're instantly manifesting? Are we ready for that kind of responsibility of the mind, So I guess it's a holistic experience, and there's not one way through for each person, because I'd say our karma, our soul's nature, our calling, it's all very different, but we need
Yeah.
intention in order to direct our energy into something. And so if you
Yeah.
want to, and your intention is to make beautiful art, or to follow your soul's path, and to have the courage to do that in a world that's, we've got to dig, we're creating this, it takes more attention, more energy, more concentration, more focus. I guess that it's not a quick fix, and
Yeah.
it's not all pleasurable,
No.
but it is equally rewarding, and because we start to come back to life in the process. And I sense that the space in which we're in is actually perfect. And if it can be used as the medicine, that is the alchemy that transfers the discomfort in the body.
Yeah.
So for the
Yeah.
artist that wants
To
to sing
dare
the
to
beautiful
stay.
song, yeah. But that can be challenging too, because I abandoned myself thousands and thousands and thousands of times over, until I realized, oh, there's a mechanism here. I can use my voice and I can locate myself from where I am, and we can begin to call myself back. And I'm curious. I'm not judging myself or beating myself up for it, which we're so harsh on ourselves, right? We should be, could be, would have been. It's like, well, this is it. Like, can we get really honest with the truth of what is? And we're not perfect, and we're not supposed to get
Yeah.
this, even right. We want to be able to lean in and give it a go. And so there's a surrendering that takes place, the surrendering, of the basic principles, as even just with the ego and things. But sometimes we need support, sometimes we need structure, sometimes we need to be able to access the vision that matches the feeling inside of the body to give us the motivation. So your work is on kind of clearing out this space in between, because I don't see these centers in us as something that's flat, like they are worlds. And that's what I'm
Yeah.
exploring more and more. You knock on the door of your heart and there is a dimension there, and it has pictures and it has sound and it has information and it's light. And there is darkness
Yeah.
in that space too, but we're afraid. And so we need tools to be able to gain a higher perspective whilst we're in the middle of something that feels really treacherous.
I love that sharing, and also now coming into the heart, because that was actually something I wanted to talk to you about, because one thing that you've really expanded my mind within is the heart is our portal, and there is so much in our hearts. And I mean, your brand and your website is called Your Heart's Path. So I'm curious to hear more about what you've gathered from not only maybe following your heart, but actually like bringing more awareness into your heart and using that as a tool to navigate through life.
It's funny because it kind of brings up that little element of like, we're creator beings, aren't we? We all get told, oh, we're creating our reality. And sometimes we can sit in that space and it's like, oh, really? I created this? Okay, well. And sometimes in spaces where we're in full celebration of that, those moments that arise and it's like, wow, look at what we've created. I guess the openness of the heart, there's a real tenderness. And when we start to access into that realm, and we were speaking before about kind of placing your intention in your body somewhere or within your world somewhere versus I intend to leave my body or I intend to numb my body or disconnect my body. We arrive in this space and then I guess the heart is where we access truth. And so that's what we feel drawn to when we're listening to our intuition. And that's the voice of the body that when we're in that space of truth, things start to move. Things start they become illuminated, and we start to sort of entertain, I guess, this non-physical plane that's always here. Like there's just veils of protection beneath that, where within the heart, I guess there is room for expansion. It's unity. It's I am you, you are me. It's the doorway to the non-physical, but it has its roots really solid in the physical. So for me, for a long time, who'd been really out of body or then super grounded and kind of not connected to this like feeling of divinity, it was like, well, this is the like balance point, But it was also the source of where I wanted to create from and where we learn to create from. So it's that I'm not creating from that place of, well, we can create still from, the solar plexus or the sacral or the base or these different centers that have like different ingredients for our life, I guess. But this to me feels like the space where we access light, And it is creative and it is expansive, but it's also that part where you start to get in tune with what's right and true for you. As there's a big truth that's like up here that perhaps we're expanding into. I wouldn't say that I know the answers to everything because I don't. But there's a space there with that beautiful heart where with vision and when audience and things came on, when I would close my eyes and I would tend to go within my heart, there was a door that I would walk through. And I was led through there with my beautiful spirit team. And I could see that other people had the same kind of thing, but their world looked different. And so as we go into the non-physical, we kind of imagine that it's just like there's air everywhere and things kind of just floating around, but there are structures that create these realities. And as we go up, we're able to sort of zoom out further and see what's in the foundations, what's underneath, Why did this experience manifest here? So it's kind of like, I mean, it's where we access love. I feel
and connection. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that when I can feel in my heart and in my body when I'm creating from my heart, because I feel so fragile and vulnerable. It's like such a big difference from creating maybe from the mind or doing something in general. It doesn't have to be related to something creative or like something that you're doing, but just when I'm in my heart, because it's such a soft and vulnerable space, I'm like, ooh, it's almost like it's a nice feeling, but it's also very like raw, I guess.
It is
And
raw, and it's a space that gets like, you'll feel that. I mean, there's times and places where we feel really contracted and like our bubble feels
mm,
really small and thin, and there are times where we have to be courageous and step out into a new environment. There's a different experience, and the fears and things come up, and it is vulnerable, because we're being seen, or there's a part that's being exposed, and that's kind of part of our human nature too. And it's the beauty, it's what breeds almost like intimacy. And
mm,
I think vulnerability is a beautiful thing if we can get, close to the edge anyway and not all the way over. Like, we want to be mindful with some of that stuff, but it, there's no kind of escape in the heart. I guess we don't get to that place and then go, oh, cool, I'm going off. Because really, I see us
yeah.
as like, it's third dimension, and it's sort of this fourth dimension we enter into, where we start to perceive that non-physical world, but we don't then leave that place. Like, this is my grounding. This is home.
Mm,
And so even if
mm,
we're at a space where there's lovely, cosmic information coming through, or there's beautiful visions, or we're hearing energy, it all has to land here in order for it to be grounded fully into the body.
mm.
That's where it's felt
Yeah, it's
too.
kind of it's like the access point between heaven and earth in one way. Like, yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
And
where the
it's
world meets.
goodness. Yeah, and that's where we connect with each other, regardless of what world we come from or what level of consciousness we're perceiving in that moment. It's that I am you, you are me. I just feel like it's a part of us that we all have. And
Mm,
it's love. Like, it seems simple, and I guess I'll never do it justice because it's a felt experience, isn't it? And I can
yeah.
feel in like the tension and like the conversation, and like there's nerves in me. Like, even
Mm,
in that space, and there's places where we feel really relaxed, but we get better at creating states of being, I guess, that direct our energy and our attention and allow us to breathe through those contractions. Or if that vulnerability comes up, you're holding yourself there, and the more
mm,
you hold yourself there, the more that is like, you feel a sense of safety in order to go in and lean into your beautiful vulnerability and share your voice openly, because you practice this.
mm. Yeah, it's kind of a muscle, I feel, with all of the things that you teach. It's about empowering people to practice these muscles that maybe not no one's told them how to do it, kind of thing.
Mm,
Just like how to come into a meditative space, or how to get into your like inner garden, or how to get into your heart. It is, once you've done it a few times, it starts to get easier, and it's more of a natural thing. The first time, as with everything, it's like, whoa, this feels a bit, something's weird, or I feel uncomfortable or whatever. But as soon as you've wired your brain to do that, it's like, okay, I can do this more now. It's something you can expand into.
yeah, and there's an ease to it. Like, it grows. It's like a relationship, because it's you and your spirit too, isn't it? It's that space where
Mm,
you're bringing your light in, and you're directing that space, or you're choosing to be there, because we start to work with will. It's like a different. The ego can still be around us. I got lots of them, and it's just like, no, I guess surrender you out the way over and over and over again. But that muscle, I guess, of coming back into center, and that expansion piece is decision, but it's backed and confirmed by your beautiful intuition. And there's a fluidness that comes with that space, and I guess a purpose that sort of starts to feel like it comes through. And it can be so simple, but it also deepens
yeah.
our relationship to the present moment, because it's
Mm,
happening right here and right now. And that, to me, is where the simplicity part, when I introduce myself, and it's not to dilute who I am, it's that I'm happiest in those moments. And when I
mm,
went on a bushwalk when I was, 14 years old, at the beginning of, like probably my first dark night of the soul, I wouldn't have even heard the birds. I remember having conversations with my mum, being like, I can't wait till, as if I'm going to like learn like to love to garden. She was like, you will one day, you just wait. And now they're things that bring me joy, because there's
the
something
simple
simple
things.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate to that a lot, and I
Mm,
feel as well like a yearning. The more you are in the present, the more I feel that you want simplicity. Like, you don't want so much clutter, so much drama, because you
mm,
just want that peaceful, loving state of being, and to have that in your physical environment as well. And like,
Yeah.
as you say, like nourish projects or creation or
Mm.
relationships that feel meaningful and have quality to them. So I can
Mm.
resonate with that. But I was
Yeah.
curious in related to that, because you have one of your offerings is about
Mm.
intuitive living and
Yeah.
how to, I guess, if you feel more sensitively
Mm.
wired and maybe are in a transition towards creating a life that is more supportive to how
Mm.
you are as a person, what would you say when it comes to like intuitive living, how you have navigated through that the past years, and what you kind of teach and offer to others within this space?
I think at an introductory level, there's that beautiful recognition initially to see intuition as something that's not separate from your body and your being. And
Mm,
to know that when you're in your body, your intuition is in communication with you if you can listen. But it picks up the pace when we take action because it usually just gives us one little step at a time. And that can be something as simple as stop watching TV every night, or hey, you don't digest this well, try this instead, or um, say yes to the job that's been offered to you, or pick that beautiful flower, even if you don't know why. And there's kind of this feeling that comes with it, almost like, I wouldn't say that it's a testing, but as it gains in momentum, because it's another form of information. If we're
mm,
overwhelmed by the physical plane, by our thoughts, by our emotions, if we're distracted by all of this, it will work on the level of instinct, on survival, on getting you back in. Like it needs to gain some form of momentum before it begins to flourish and grow and evolve, where the guidance starts to flourish and grow and evolve and sort of take different heights within your body. To listen to the subtle bits, and it's often in those little moments, and it's after practice, not always during. Like you
mm,
meditate and you create space within your being. It might be that you make a choice, or you have the courage because you've backed yourself through the discipline of showing up to something even though you felt uncomfortable. It's like you make some space
mm,
and all of a sudden that whisper comes in. But then we met with the obstacles, and so it's nice to see it as a part of life, not a room within your house that sometimes you go into. It's in everything.
yeah,
And so it's in the cup of tea or the coffee. And I like that with food, because I think food and these basic movement, exercise, what we do for our emotions, what we're doing for our mind, this is where we get to learn the best discipline, because we need discipline in order to focus and concentrate when we go into those spaces where we're connecting with something that's even more intense than our own whispers. But
yeah,
action's a huge part of integration. And if we're getting intuitive hits, but we're not doing anything about it, and that's as far as things get. And then they start to manifest in the physical world. It's kind of like, it's sort of like outside of us, and there's feedback here, and it's like kind of listening. So we have choice.
mm,
Some people, not so much, because there's devastation almost, as the ripple effect of not listening can start to build in pressure. And it can build in
yeah,
pressure until it starts to manifest in ways that you're kind of put in positions where you have to do something about it, or you have to listen. Because it's some form of protection too. It's gearing you on the path of what I'd call your heart's path, or your soul, because
mm,
we come here with contracts and agreements and a mission and a purpose that has great meaning and deep fulfillment. Even if it's challenging, the suffering seems to dissipate because there's not this expectation, or I guess feeling like we should be somewhere else than where we already are. It's like I accept the
mm,
moment that I am, and I can see that it's a challenge. I can see this as an opportunity for growth. So why weave it into the simple stuff? Like I teach this with people all the time, where I'm starting to teach them practice. I'm like, okay, every time you go to the toilet, this is what you're going to do. We start to weave it into the practical ways in which we do things. Before you get in the car, check down with your feet, make sure you're breathing into your belly. It can be simple little bits like this that start to fine tune and enrich our our lens and our consciousness for expansion, but it all leads back to that presence in the beginning, because we've got to be able to energize that part of us before we
Yeah.
grant the capacity to be able to perceive more.
Mm. Yeah, I really feel that,
Interesting.
and that's about like just having mindfulness and to show up for these daily practices, that if it's meditation, if it's movement, if it's going for a walk, if it's drinking your tea mindfully, then you might jump in the shower afterwards, and that's when something trickles down, because you're receptive and you're open and you're present and you're aware of what's going on. It's quite divine, really, when you get a little nudge or a hit.
So divine. And our challenges that we have with that is the spiritual practice. It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't want, I don't want to. The noise comes up or the resistance comes up, and I guess that perception or that lens is, this is perfect too. How am I going to respond to
Mm,
this? Do I just go back to the known, how I've always done things, and repeat the patterns and the
mm,
cycles and in the comfort zone, or do I lean in and trust this little whisper, or take a risk,
mm,
a healthy one, while staying present, and there's veils and there's these lovely little thresholds that we bump up against, and there are ways that we could protect ourselves when we're navigating this, and often it is a direction of energy, again surrendering the ego,
mm,
calling in, say, like the higher self or your guardians, your protectors. And so is that, because it's not the physical body we enter into the non-physical realm with, it's our astral
mm.
body to begin with. And so, but I guess that's the beauty of it, and the interconnectedness of all things. It's everywhere, and I think
Yeah.
that's enough for some people too. Just because you're interested in this stuff doesn't mean that you have to go and, I mean, your psychic abilities will open as a byproduct of being present in your system and listening to your intuition, because you're energizing the center where it all is in
Mm,
communication.
mm.
So there's
I
layers
thought
to it.
yeah. But I thought it was interesting because you also mentioned when you introduced yourself, and I relate to that as well, about having like this thoughts about, why am I here? What's our purpose? What's the meaning of it all? These more existential, maybe soulful questions. And I guess also if you've had like episodes of depression or dark nights of the soul or spiritual crisis or existential crisis, whatever you want to talk or label these kind of processes where we go a bit deeper and question things. What would you say are your like insights and what have you gathered from those reflections and that kind of seeking for the meaning for yourself, and maybe in more of a cosmos as well, like why we are here on a deeper level? Because it is a bit crazy, like we're on this planet spinning around
Mm,
in
mm.
space.
For me personally, I, it's, how do I want to answer this? I like to see things in spheres.
Yeah.
Because as we have like expansion like this, more of our world wakes up. So it's not that we don't have access to it, just it's kind of this feeling of, I guess, my intention in the beginning was about health and harmony and balance. My intention has grown and changed and evolved as I have grown and changed and evolved. The capacity to, what do I want to say? It's like, my intention is of service now, whereas 10 years ago, maybe it was just a survival to get through a day. That's something that is like malleable and it sort of changes, but right at the core, my intention that comes from my heart or from my higher self or from my intuition, it's kind of like lining up on all levels, if that makes sense. And sometimes
Mm,
I wonder if purpose is like that. It's like all levels about, being a kind of like working together. It's in one long line. There's a clarity that comes with that. I've never felt more at home with the intention being not about me. I don't
Yeah.
know, it's not there's a bigger reason that goes just beyond the eye. And at the same time, I'm just a
Mm.
tiny little grain of sand in this huge, vast, beautiful universe. But what I do believe is the further out that we zoom out, there's a perfection in all things. And if we can all steer towards our mission and our reason, that's, I guess the meaning kind of comes in the moment. We might not even realize what that is.
Yeah.
There's like, it ends up creating the whole. So there's almost, and I'm not really probably making a lot of sense because it sort of feels like it's a hard thing to sort of explain. But I believe that our biggest like justice that we could do to the earth or as a collective is to, I mean, it all kind of comes back to being ourselves and in fulfilling
Mm.
these soul contracts. We're participating in the awakening. We're
Mm.
participating in the expansion of consciousness and integrating light.
Mm.
And I
That makes
guess,
sense a lot for me.
mm,
Like about if we get more clear and authentic and honest and truthful with
mm,
ourselves and tap into our heart, it
mm,
will, as you said before, it will reveal stuff to us. And once you've started
mm,
to realize these things, it will kind of more easily flow in your life what maybe lights you up and what you should be doing, and maybe you start to feel this urge and calling to be
mm,
working more of service. And that can be in any kind of profession, but that your way of being there is about being there for others and serving the collective rather
mm,
than some kind of ego driven purpose. Because I guess when you think about purpose, sometimes people tie it to a profession, but your
yeah,
purpose, as you say, is
mm,
more of a self actualization of yourself
mm,
to be who
mm,
you are.
mm.
And then
And
that
like an
will have its
integration of
ripple
the higher
effects.
self. Yeah.
Yeah.
And an integration of what I would call the higher self, which is like the awakened version of us in some sense, right? I think we kind of imagine that
Mm.
as like some mystical priestess up in the sky. And I always kind of try and when I'm teaching people to just like perceive it as this lovely, like long line of energy, like the ocean, but it's bright and whatever color it is that you want it to be. And this beautiful light that comes through and information being a part of that, but also, our inspirations and our contracts and all sorts of things that settles within to the being. And with that, I guess there's just the intentions start to change. The way that we perceive the world starts to change. The way love does something very different to fear. If we're operating from the source of fear and shutdown and closeness and not enoughness and unworthiness, which is part of our testing to transform and
Mm.
alchemize that and to turn it, get closer to the truth of the divinity in which you are. I really do see we're all love at the core, and we're kind of arriving back
Mm.
to that. And
Yeah.
so I guess we're all here to help each other. Like that's the other part. It's like no one role is better than the other. It's just, and there is like this lovely, it's kind of like the ocean. You zoom out, and we're all just like you know, one little particle, but we all make up kind of the
Yeah.
whole.
Mm. I love that. It's like Rumi says that you're not a drop in the ocean, you are the ocean in a
Mm,
drop as
mm,
well. So it's
yeah,
like
that's really
we're
cool.
a micro and macro and micro like
Mm,
existence, I guess.
yeah.
Mm. I like that.
And I guess
Or
for
that was
me,
so
I've just
very.
had to, I
Sorry,
was
sorry.
just
Go
gonna,
on.
no, it's fine. I kind of just, I feel like there's a voice that we start to listen to once we've listened to our intuition and our heart, and then I guess it's almost like a natural progression which you see, and you don't have to be fully awakened to hear that voice of God or source or love or creator or your higher self or something that's coming from that higher plane. And I really do feel as that comes in more and more, it directs you to and through and on your path of purpose. And for some people, that's in motherhood or in the creation of art or in presence or as a Buddha or as a teacher or it's
Mm.
they're those archetypal expressions that our contracts exist within, and I guess it's all here to help us awaken. I see Earth like a school. and
Yeah.
that it's here to teach us something.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when you start to think about, have you seen the Disney movie Soul?
Yes, I have. A long time
Yeah.
ago now.
Because
Yeah, I did this.
I rarely watch the Disney movies, but some of them, like that one, it was really kind of a spiritual teaching in it, how we kind of incarnate and come down to earth to share our song, kind of thing. And it's quite a nice perspective to have as well on like incarnation and being here on earth and fulfilling our like soul's path, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It is beautiful. And it kind of allows like that sort of feeling of like metaphor to come in, because I think that's sometimes where I struggle when I'm not in like intense kind of channel mode as well. And it's not a stream of information that's coming through, even for education, where it's coming from a higher space. We're limited in language to be able to describe a lot of the stuff that
Yeah.
we experience, which is why for artists, like, if they want to draw this, or there are
Mm,
sounds sometimes that you can make that express how you're feeling, but then it might not be that you need to perfectly orchestrate words that kind of come together. And those mystical
mm,
experiences, they sort of go beyond words in some way. And I kind of love that. And there's a development that comes
yeah.
through language, isn't there? And a refinement with our own expression and the way that we listen and what we tune into. Um,
Mm.
but I guess it all, yeah, I mean, there's a mysticism around some of that as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true. And I find that some of the art that you create it's so
Mm,
beautiful to see also what's in someone else's kind of creation, or like to take part of someone else's inner landscape a bit. Like when you make
mm,
your beautiful deers with the beautiful spots, or the
mm,
female bodies with the spots. I'll link like
mm,
all the details so people can follow and book courses and readings, and also your
mm,
mentorship program and the House of Mystics, which I think we
mm.
should just touch upon shortly. It's such a blessing
Sure.
to, as a fellow human, to see someone else create stuff. I
Mm,
love that. It's just something
mm.
about the human experience that's so pure, that we come here and we have our inner worlds, and then we can like try to paint a bit emotions or
Wild,
states of
isn't it?
minds or consciousness, and like, this is me.
Yeah, and it comes
Yeah.
through our body and our being, and it's phenomenal. And painting's like one of those, like it's always blown me away because it's a very subtle form of manifestation and creation for me. And it's also something that, like, we don't need words in order to deeply feel where someone is coming from. The picture says it as well, just that sound, isn't it? It
Mm,
really does. And it's multi-dimensional in some sense, but it's a huge practice for me. Like, I see my future as a space where I feel like I will be working more with that artist archetype. It's where I
mm,
have my most resistance. A lot of the time, like,
mm.
there's such a huge practice to set up to bring the energy through, because it can be so huge.
Yeah.
And sometimes I see things before I paint them, and sometimes they're appearing and I'm creating them. And that's been the most
Wow.
profound experience for me over the years, because when my site opened and, vision, I could see there were lots of different interaction with lots of different beings, and I'm not necessarily shielded in that way now, but I have a very strong team, and I'm depend. We have a. I was going to say I'm dependent on them, and in some sense I am. We navigate the world together, so I can see they show me things in particular versus this place where I guess it was super vast and super open and lots of different creatures and different things. I'm kind of more into like what's coming toward me now, or I'm learning from you guys when you come and sit with me in session, from what's around in that
Mm,
space. But art to me is honestly one of the purest, the painting or drawing is one of the purest forms of um, creation. Like,
mm.
they're alive, and like really deeply, truly, we can hear them. They have a voice, there's a pulse, there's an energy that's emitted. And I always felt like it was such a huge responsibility and especially when these beings would come, because sometimes they come into my home, and I hope it's okay to say this. I hope you can feel me. They would sit, like almost to be painted, like back in the day, you know. It was like, and they'd visit for a short time. And if I resisted the temptation, like the urge to do that because I had other priorities, or I know I'm going out with friends, or I'm not doing that today, it might sit around for a few days, but then it would vanish and the channel with it would disappear. So it was like they always come in as like offerings or gifts. Sometimes every now and then I've drawn something because it's come over me so intently I have to drop everything and I'm up in the middle of the night just letting it come through. But I look at them and I have to put paintings all over my house that I've done, and I'm like, we did that. And I'm like, no, but I did it. Like, it's not me. I can't take responsibility for that. Because there's this lovely channel, and words I'm comfortable with and channeling, but art is my vulnerable space. It's one of the most purest forms, but it also feels like this really huge responsibility because there's a fixedness to it. And
yeah.
I could see these beings, and when I'd painted them initially, and then I could hear them. They'd have a voice. They'd show me the worlds in which they came from. They were portals into other places, and I could spend some of them. There's one under my bed, and I still go into that world. That's a forest that opened, and I can go in there and talk to the plants and the other beings in that space. But it's a rite of passage, and I don't know. I guess to me, it's one of the most intimate experiences ever, which is why it's so challenging at times when you do have something that you're creating to pursue that thing, because it asks of such vulnerability and it asks of such
Yeah.
opening in a place where you want to contract, or the voice wants to come in, or just a refusal to take action on it. And that's the same kind of feeling with your dreams, which is why when I look at art, I kind of feel like it is the highest calling for me in some sense. And I love it. I love imagery and clairvoyance, the visual world. It is the heart of my passion and why I started intuitive development in the first place, because I love grounded spirituality, and I want things to land for people in a way that they do make sense, so that the ego can be surrendered out of the experience. Because I suppose it's just information that dances around your mind, and you really need to be able to try it on and have those mystical experiences for yourself, for it to change your inner world and open up doorways within you, literally. And clairvoyance was kind of always the anchor, and then things evolve. And the House of Mystics, which you mentioned before, it's a place that opened. It came through my channel like the paintings did in an instant, and it was like the trembling. And it was one of those experiences where there was no pushing this out. It was, my body shook for days, and it came through. When it came through, if I closed my eyes, that's where I was. It was a place to explore. And I was asking my team, like, what is this? And they were like, it's the House of Mystics, right? It's like, okay, the House of Mystics. And I respond, right down to the colors and the place, and the teachings evolve in the same way. They gave me the curriculum. I'm listening. And I guess that's how things kind of develop in our minds, and the beauty of our intuition. And I can think right back to my little self, where I'm like, what's going on? Back to that place within myself. But there's tools there, and we all have these resources to come back to center and expand. And I guess I feel confident in that arena, because I'm so excited by the change that some really simple techniques and the ability to very easily change our state of being, or add a layer of protection that spirit is just waiting for. They know you need, like, it's like putting brakes in your car or something. Like, you drive the car, but if you don't have brakes, it's not safe to get in there. So sometimes it's just like a few little mechanisms within your being that need to be changed, and all of a sudden you can go all these different ways. And that's what I love about it, because we're all unique. There's no one way or one path, or I just, and I guess the House of Mystics has offered some form of a structure that as a group we can explore. And the language that is taught, that language of soul, or of symbology, can be grounded in our physical reality, where it does affect your relationships and your work and your purpose and your health. And your minds and your emotions, because it's all of you, and they all need to be touched upon in order to come into alignment and balance, out the inner being. So it asks, yeah, I guess,
It's a very
yeah.
holistic approach as well, because that's what I feel when it comes to like, that's a bit about this channel as well, that it's all about everything is so connected, right? Our way of creating art, our relationship to our spiritual side, our health, like everything is connected. So we can't really do well in one without having the other kind of thing. And especially when we are more sensitively wired, that's why the House of
Mm-hmm.
Mystics and your offerings create these good foundations for people to set themselves like up to be able to be in all those arenas in an embodied and happy and flowy and aligned way, I guess.
And to feel safe too, where there's further evolution beyond that, because your teacher is always going to be your best teacher. So it's kind of like you put the foundations in and the floor in and this space where it's like, okay, no matter how I wake up or whatever it is I experience, I've always got this path back to alignment or centeredness or connection to my inner being, which will guide me through the next step. So it's sort of like that elimination process teaches you then to not listen to my voice or the wisdom that comes through in the teaching space, but what's coming through for you. Because a lot of it is kind of getting out of our own way in some sense too, right? And facing our
Yeah.
fears and surrendering the ego and our willingness to perceive the truth, to work towards that. So it's layered in a beautiful way, but it's kind of, there's a language that's through my team sort of seem to be getting clearer and clearer at communicating, which allows you to, go off into the world and listen to your own heart and your own soul and, your own spirit guides or whoever it is in the non-physical that is there to support you there. Often they're just twiddling their thumbs, kind of just like waiting, ready when you are,
I love that, and it's so I mean, it's still on my bucket list to join in. I don't know when you'll have the next enrollment, or if it's kind of like anyone can do it at any speed right now. But I think we'll also link, or we will link all the details and like your Instagram page, your website, and how people can find the House of Mystics, and also you do also more scheduled or personalized mentorships as well. So people who are listening that are intrigued can tune in further. I have a very dear friend who's been part of it, and I've seen the shifts in her life. So I have no doubt in the world, especially as you are the creator of it, even though it's very co-created, I guess, with your team. I think we need these kind of programs and teachings, and I love like the name, and it's kind of this wizardry school. I feel like people who never got that letter to Hogwarts can join the House of Mystics instead.
It is, and there's a beautiful space. There's a practical element to it as well. And there's a lightheartedness with that beautiful language that kind of makes us feel curious. I also feel like some of the most incredibly magical people are the people that you would least expect at times too. And like, I
Yeah.
really feel like my purpose is to serve the common person. People that have had conversations with me, like I feel really called to it, but I don't even know why. Like I'm not this or that or whatever, but our perception of magic is actually slightly altered. So, if we've been fed the stories that pulling rabbits out of a hat and all of the rest of it, I feel like magic, I mean, you bring that with your vulnerability and your beautiful expression and your patience and your capacity to ask the right questions and direct the energy, in response to your initial intention. And it's like all of that stuff to me is more magic and mystical, and it's the exploration of who we are and who we're becoming and what we get to contribute to this beautiful world, right?
Yeah.
But I'm enrolling now for October, and it's 4 months
Okay, cool.
and with a 2-week break over Christmas. So the enrollment's open. You'll find them all there on my website. Yeah, it's a really beautiful group of women so far, and it is
Exciting.
worldwide because it's all done online. Yeah, and everything's recorded, so
Yes.
you get access to like a whole year as well. So some people have kind of done the course and then gone back through and revisited the content. And as we expand too, we can have different experiences within one practice.
Mm.
We come back 6 months later and revisit it, and there's a whole another dimension to the experience. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah,
and
I'm
everything else is
intrigued
just trying
and
to
yeah. And also, if people are listening and want to do just one-on-one, like one-off sessions, you also do really nice guidance sessions and healing and give a lot of energetic translation. As you said, that words in many ways can't really, it's hard to describe some of these things, but yeah, I think people should definitely check you out. And I'm so excited to follow your journey with your art, because I really, and I think as you said that like maybe that's something that's further down the line for you with more artistic like endeavors, but I really, as soon as I see just your page and your what you create, there's something that I just gravitate towards it. So it's like something that I would love to see more of as well. And I can like see you down and
Beautiful.
having your own like art studio or something cool down in
Yes.
Australia
Oh, what a
where you can
dream.
explore it further. Yeah, I can just see this amazing space where
Absolutely.
you can just flow around.
With multiple different pieces all at one time. I tell you what, Natalie, I'd love to
Yeah.
be able to throw paint one day as well. Usually these people have these lovely warehouses and stuff, and they can kind of just go in and make a little bit of a mess. But yeah, there's
Mm,
great like it's a beautiful thing. I feel like there's a timing to everything too, and that's such a beautiful
yeah.
reflection. And thank you, because it's such a gift to my heart and to myself to receive that. So I appreciate it deeply. There's a timing to things as well, isn't there?
Yeah,
And like sometimes
definitely.
like we can feel it and we can see it, but it's like just listening in this moment. And yeah, I guess
Mm,
it is a part of my discipline I painted today. Just a little
mm,
bit, just playing more and more, letting go of the like the perfectionist that comes through in that space for me as well. Just loosing
mm,
room for letting it flow versus trying to control the experience.
mm.
Yeah,
Oh, I love that. I'm seeing now that the time is flying by here. But as I
yeah,
said
it is.
before we started, that I'd love to go deeper with you on different topics in the
Yeah,
future. So I feel you can come back as well and be a guest again if you would like
lovely.
to. And just saying that, I realized also we can mention that you also have a YouTube channel where you share energetic updates on a monthly basis that are really nice to tune into, more of a collective, but when you listen to them you always apply them on, you can like, oh yes, this is a theme that I'm going through. So I can highly recommend that as well. And yeah, we'll link all the details below. But in apart from
Sweet.
that, I'm just curious if there is anything else that you have, dreams or anything else you would like to
Mhm.
share or pass on, or just anything that you feel you have.
Honestly, I feel like for a lot of people that are wired as like an empath, as a sensitive, as an intuitive being, I believe we all have this inside of us. And I feel like sometimes our expectations are that if we're listening to this, like this, I don't know, I almost feel like spirituality can be presented as something that kind of comes with like a lot of glamour and a dangling
Mm,
carrot and this kind of like, if you do this, then you get this. And I kind of feel like if you can simplify these aspects, if you can approach your intuition and your sensitivity and um, your empathy as something that is like your best friend and something that's like walking you through life, and that it's really got not much to do with the things that you collect, and it's not about the yes of safety and all the rest of it, but the true kind of bliss or those moments of ecstasy that kind of arrive are in those moments of wholeness. And I feel it's an endurance piece. It doesn't just happen
mm,
overnight. So it's the continuously showing up for yourself, down to your basic routines, like choosing, making a choice that you're going to prioritize that beautiful voice. And sometimes we do just have to trust that it's going to take us where it's meant to. And so work on your self-esteem, because that's the part that backs you in taking action when it comes to your intuition, because you are going into unknown territory. So it can seem dark until you take your light in there, and then all of a sudden you can see again, you're established, but it's exciting and it's beautiful and it's deep, and that depth is something we all crave as sensitive beings. I think we're desperate for it a lot of the time, to see other, to be seen, to be able to feel that depth within other people. So don't shy away from it, and it's deeply personal, it's deeply sacred. So creating spaces like with you, I feel like, with the beautiful retreats and things that you're running, I just feel like there's a spiral there of other ways in which you're going to be showing up and creating these beautiful spaces for people to come to. You don't have to do it alone.
Exactly.
We've got to give ourselves the opportunity, which takes that vulnerability and that courage. And we're not always going to get it right. I'll probably finish the call and have to surrender my ego and go, oh, well, I wanted to say, and I could have said, and I should have said, and it's like, it's all right, Faye. Like we got to have that voice has to be stronger. I love you and I let you go. It's okay. Like everybody's just doing the best that they can. That voice prioritizes love. That voice will take you to where there is deep meaning, deep fulfillment, deep learning for evolution. Yeah.
Wow, that's so wise words. I feel I needed to hear that as well. And I think as well, just adding to that, and in regards to our conversation, to not be scared of asking for help and guidance in this process. As you say, we're not here on earth to do it alone, and there are people that know stuff and that can hold spaces, and sometimes you don't need even someone to talk to you, but you just need to go to a yoga class or go to a space that feels safe for you to kind of just embrace what's on your inside.
Being in your body and like that self-awareness piece and that self-knowledge that you're collecting by, being present with your experience and getting to know yourself is a shield of protection when you start to enter into these higher dimensions. We need great discernment. So you need to be able to know who you are and how you feel and what your thoughts are like, and like get curious. The curiosity opens the heart in a situation where the being wants to contract. So it's like we lean in and we're like, ooh, what is this? What's this? Because protection's a part of it, but it's not about building walls around our world or around our life that shut people out or shut out life. It's kind of it's clarity, it's discernment. And it's knowing yourself really deeply. Especially when we start tapping into our creative abilities, right?
Yes.
There's great responsibility that comes with that. And to have that being created through heart or from heart is a really important thing. I feel like where we're going, that's the medicine. That's the new earth. That's the awakening. Thank you for having me, darling.
Thank you so much, Faye. It was a pleasure, and you are a fountain of knowledge. I'm so impressed, and I feel like there's so much within you that I just want to pull out of there. But I guess that people can, for now, follow you. No, but for now, people can.
Which we all had to.
Yeah. Well, for now, people can follow you and connect with you, and if they want to reach out, they can also DM you, I guess, and email. You have email. All the details are on your website, so I'll link everything below. And I'm already looking forward to having you on again in the future, and we can dive into deeper aspects and this and that, and also the more practical, I guess, is always nice for people. Because I like that you have such a practical approach to this at the end of the day, and the simple things that lead to the good results and the changes over time that are sustainable. But for now, I'm wishing everyone that's been listening a beautiful day and sending lots of love. Thank you so much again, Faye.
Thanks for
An
having me.
honor.
Thank you, darling.
Bye.